The announcement from Electronic Arts and BioWare came last week, though I think that no one should be surprised. And the confirmation came that on September 30, 2025, the servers of Anthem will be switched off for good. And after years of life support, I should say, the plug is finally being plugged by early next year in 2026 and January. And to understand why this feels both inevitable and tragic, we have to go back to E3 2017. In my opinion, I thought that it was breathtaking watching the reveal live back in 2017. This was BioWare, the master of the world buildings from Mass Effect and Dragon Age, showing us a lush, dangerous alien world. And there was the gameplay. These incredible exosuits, the javelins, launching into the sky like Iron Man. I mean, diving into deep water and seamless transitioning into combat. The promise was freedom. The promise was the ultimate power of fantasy. The graphics, the scope, the score concept. It was pure, uncut hype. It looked like the next evolution of looter shooter genre and a true competitor to Destiny. Again, it was promised as a Destiny killer, which by the time Destiny 1 was already transitioning to Destiny 2. So I think that BioWare and Electronic Arts really wanted to capitalize the transition between the Destiny 2 and Destiny 1 transition. But a promise is not a product, of course. When Anthem launched in February 2019, the dream began to crumble almost immediately. The beautiful world was a facade for a game that was fundamentally broken at its core, and its problems were many. First and most critical for a looter shooter was the loot. It was, to put mildly, a catastrophe. The entire gameplay loop is supposed to be defeat enemies, get better gear, take on harder enemies, get even better gears. But Anthem loot system felt random in the worst way. You had the inscriptions, which were the perks of the gear that makes no sense. You get a freaking pistol damage increase on the granite launcher, and you get a plus 20% shield and a component that already gave you a massive shield boost. But the math was so obtuse, you never knew if it was actually helping. And for which this has been a bug that were the default. Starter rifles was one of the most powerful guns in the game. It was a complete mess that showed a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes this genre compelling. Then there was the world itself. The breathtaking landscape you flew through was just a corridor to get from one mission to the next. The social hub, Fort Tarsis, was slow, claustrophobic, first-person slog, completely disconnected from the third-person freedom for the gameplay. And then the loading screen. The loading screen. You finish a mission, hit a loading screen, tally your results, hit another loading screen, load back into the world, only to have to walk 10 feet to a vendor and enter to another loading screen. It shatters any sense of immersion. Story sense, a place where BioWare is supposed to shine felt generic and hampered by this structural mess. The grand cosmic threat of the Anthem of creation never felt immediate of interest. We'll never find out why. Thanks to a now famous report from journalist Jason Schreier, the development was a chaos. The team was fighting the Frostbite engine, which was never built for this type of games. The vision for the game was reviewed multiple times. That stunning E3 demo was apparently put together in a rush, with many of underlying the systems not even built yet. They were chasing something called the BioWare magic, and this idea that everything would just come together in the final months of development, and newsflash, it didn't. But then a glimmer of hope appeared. BioWare announced the Anthem Next, or the Anthem 2.0. They were going to do what No Man's Sky did. They were reassembling a dedicated team to completely overhaul the game from the ground up. They were transparent, releasing blog posts, showing concept art for a new skill set, a new UI, and a complete new philosophy for loot. For a while, the small, dedicated community that stuck around believed they have hope. And yes, I was part of that small community, and to my opinion, many call it small. I should say that we were a big community that actually we held hope. Big. And in February 2021, EA canceled it. Electronic Arts said that they reviewed the progress and decided it was worth not to continue the investment. From a corporate spreadsheet perspective, it makes sense. Why pour more millions into a damaged brand when you can use those to develop our next Max Effect? But for the players, it was the ultimate betrayal. That was the day Anthem truly died. This server shut down in 2026. It's just a funeral. And to be honest, if you're watching the audiovisual or video version of this podcast episode, you should see that this was a gameplay that I made a few years ago, and actually I had a lot of fun with the game. I think that Anthem was just a lost opportunity, and Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next update being abandoned was a double down lost opportunity. I believe that BioWare did really give a thing about Anthem when the original purpose for the game was never met up, and I think it was more damaging to discover that in the perspective of the public, many believe that this was all Electronic Arts' fault, but in reality, it was all BioWare's decision, and in the contrary, EA was full support of Anthem getting revived. So I think that maybe the idea wasn't bad, but the execution was bad. I mean, the idea of flying through a beautiful world with your friends, a world that you can freely explore, have missions, doing a solo thing or going on with your friends. I think that that was a unique experience. It's something that I share with my experience with Destiny. And a world that come January 2026 will cease to exist immediately. A digital space that millions of people purchase access to will vanish into thin air, and the $60 you spend will get you nothing but a useless icon in your hard drive and a piece of, let's say, a collectible gaming part of the history. I think, and I was part of those who take advantage of. In the first Christmas after the launch of Anthem, the game was low as $5, and I took advantage of that purchase. Of course, I got the Xbox One version and also have the Anthem PC version, which I believe is the better experience you can have with Anthem, thanks to the EA Play benefit of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And obviously, the thing that damaged the most is the detail that you can play Anthem when the server shut down, because all the logistical for missions, player positioning, NPCs, and enemies position is all made via server. It doesn't have a local thing being processed by your computer or your console. So